you're like me as a hunter, I feel like we're constantly in a battle royale with all the anti-hunters, all the government regulations, and everything that continues to change with allocated tags and just name it. There's a whole gambit of things. Well, one of these situations we actually talk about in this podcast with Howl for Wildlife. In this episode, I'm talking to John Stallone of Howl for Wildlife. He was one of the founders. And I talked to him about basically where the money goes and how Howl is pretty well structured so that we know where to devote our money and how we can be active as hunters to protect our rights to hunt and fish. So sit back, enjoy this episode, and I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on all the things that are said in this podcast. This episode was brought to you by 6am Outdoor Gear. 6am is a lightweight backpacking and hunting gear company that provides you with all kinds of lightweight options for the backcountry. They have shelters, quilts, game bags, tarps, everything you'd need to pretty much set up a lightweight camp. Everything is guaranteed for life, very competitive price-wise. So go online and check out 6amoutdoors.com. is viamoutdoors.com. I'm Aaron from the Primitive Republic podcast. Obviously, I'm the host of Primitive Republic, and I have the distinct pleasure of being here with John Stallone. No, as far as I know, no relation to Sylvester.
As far as I know, no, there is not anything.
But I met John, I don't know, years ago with Rocky.
Yes.
Rocky Jacobson. And I'd be lying to you if I told you what event it was. You know,
I thought it was here.
It might have been. It very well could have been. Maybe in the booth over there at Rocky Mountain or something like that. But John, you're the host of Howl for Wildlife and a couple others, right?
Well, so I host my own personal podcast, which is Days in the Wild, and I've been doing that for almost 18 years or around 18 years. And then we have the Howlcast. And the Howlcast is new, as is Howl for Wildlife. We're fairly new, you know, two years plus. But we started about a year ago on the Howlcast, and I am not the main host of Howlcast anymore. I originally got that going, but Mike Costello is hosting that. He's better suited to get that going, but I do frequent the podcast quite a bit. So.
Yeah. Mike was actually the one that reached out to me, and. Yeah, I mean, I've really been interested in Howl for, quite a while, and, life gets in the way, and there's so many different wildlife organizations, and I hate to say it, green decoys, that people get caught up in, and, you almost don't know who to donate to and stuff like that. So that's why this podcast is so interesting to me because, Everett, he's a good buddy of mine, and he's like, dude, you really, really need to look into Howl. And I'm like, I'll get there one of these days. I'm like afraid to put my allegiance in with anybody, just because of that. And so, yeah, I'm glad Mike reached out, and I had a long conversation with him, and he kind of gave me the rundown and everything like that. So what can you tell me about how, like, if somebody's in the same situation that I was in, right, and you don't know who to donate to, you don't know what they truly stand for, what can you say about Howl?
Well, Howl specifically, so when we first envisioned this, when Charles and I kind of talked about this in deer camp and decided to do something, we envisioned a community. We envisioned a grassroots thing where hunters can voice their opinion, voice their concerns on things that affected the ability to hunt and fish, the wildlife management decisions, stuff like that. And I was kind of like you, where I belong to a number of different organizations. And I think we believe, or we feel like, oh, hey, I'm giving money to this organization, so I'm doing my part. But without ever really realizing or looking into what it is that organization does, or what they're capable of doing. And that's something I'm finding out more and more now. Like, I hear numbers being thrown around a lot as to, they can use up to 80% on their operating costs. No, that's actually that's not the right number. That is a right number, but you're only allowed to use 20% of your expenditure towards lobbying. It's what what the actual number is. It's what people miscite all the time. And so by no fault of the other organizations, the acronym organizations that we all grew up with, they can only do so much because their hands are tied. And even us, Howl for Wildlife, because we're a 501c3, we have a certain mission. We have to stick within that mission to keep our 501c3 status.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes there's things that in order for us to be effective, like, okay, for instance, in Colorado, okay, we're acting as a conduit to drive funding, the knowledge or the information and people to CRWM,
mm-hmm.
because they're a C4, and a C4 allows them to lobby pretty much to no end.
Okay. Well, real quick, hang on there real quick. So for those who don't know, what is CRWM?
CRWM, that's Coloradoans for Responsible Wildlife Management. That's why they say CRWM, because it's a mouthful. Yes. And we'll get into that. We'll talk about that a little bit. But going back to what you were saying. So what Howl does, we do a lot of things. We wear a lot of hats. But our main focus, if you're looking at it from a 30,000-foot view, is connecting hunters with decision makers, and also connecting the non-hunting public to hunters by sharing our stories, by developing and informing them of why hunting is good, why we do these things. But on boots on the ground, we do a lot of different things. Like, we organize, we call them pre-game meetings. So if there's like something at a commission level, at a committee level, we can we'll hold like a class on Zoom. And, however many people sign up to be on that class will show up. We'll explain to them, okay, well, if it's a commission meeting, it's going to be run this way. You should present yourself, in this manner. Here are some talking points. Here are some, here's all the information that we have on the subject. And, we don't tell you what to say exactly, but, we're giving people the information they need to sound, one, intelligent, and two, to give a formidable,
direction,
defense or whatever, of what, because I don't want to say defense, because sometimes it's a pro thing. And that's been super huge. Like, just that alone, we've had commissioners like, oh, we've never seen hunters show up. It's always been anti-hunters. And now, like, where you would have like 5 or 6 anti-hunters and, one hunter would show up. Now you got a room full of hunters, 50 people, and you still got the 3-4 anti-hunters. And now it's like really skewed, like way more than it ever was the other way. And it's just super powerful because we're being able to move things.
So how are you? That's actually a really great point, right? So traditionally, hunters are just kind of they're in the background. They're like, most of them seem just like the working class. Whatever happens, or they have a strong opinion about what's going on politically or through the Fish and Game or DNR, whatever organization runs it. But traditionally, they don't seem to come out
to those meetings and stuff like that. So what have you guys done to help, get hunters more involved? Because that's one of the things, like in Colorado, those ballot initiative, I don't want to say platforms, but
Right.
the ballot initiatives to get people to vote on specific wildlife issues. That's so important. But the people who are anti that or anti hunting are very, very good and organized and show up in droves to that kind of thing.
Sure.
So what is it that you guys are doing to get hunters to get off their duff and go out and
really, we're just connecting the dots. I think. Well, let me back up a little bit. You started to kind of paint this picture, and I'm gonna kind of add the accents to it. Hunters and anglers are typically they're the mindset. You don't impose your lifestyle on me. I won't impose my lifestyle on you.
100%.
And that's a great way to live in most circumstances. But that mindset's what kind of took us out of the fight. Just to give you an example, okay, we're talking about wolves. You hear the wolf conversation about Colorado all the time, especially nowadays. We lost that vote, and I don't remember the exact numbers, so I'm just going to throw out arbitrary numbers to you. But I think it was like 33,000 people we lost the vote, okay, less than 1%. And the other statistic is there was like 154,000 or 133,000, something ridiculous amount of hunters that didn't even vote.
Wow.
Okay.
And
so
why do you think that is, real quick?
Again, I think it goes back to that mindset. Like some of them don't know, which, okay, that's great. We can fix that with education. Some of them don't care, which that's the worst because I don't know if that's something that we could fix. Although, to answer your original question with this, keep that in mind because we're going to get back to that.
Right.
We're basically giving people a reason to care by connecting the dots. Okay, because I think it's more of a I seemingly don't care. It seemingly doesn't affect me, so why should I care?
And that was going to be my question.
And that's exactly kind of what we're talking about. And but I also think it's there's probably a certain population. You're asking me to look into the minds of other people, but I think a certain population really just they feel like they can't affect change. So why should they?
Why try?
Yeah. So that's a big thing. Like, but going back to the original question, I think what we're doing is we're giving a reason to the public, to the hunting public, to want to care. Why? Like my last couple of talks that I gave, I connected the dots for people, and we could do that right now, actually. So let's take this example in Colorado, okay?
Which example? Because there's a couple of them.
So they're trying to ban mountain lion and bobcat hunting.
Yep.
Okay. So there is a anti-hunting organization petitioning right now to get on the ballot a initiative that would effectively remove all mountain lion hunting and bobcat hunting and lynx, which we don't hunt anyway because they're federally protected. But where are you from?
Montana.
Okay,
Yeah.
Perfect example. So let's just say, for this purpose of this example, you only hunt deer in Montana. That's your stick. That's what you love to do. You're a mule deer guy. You don't hunt whitetails. You don't hunt elk. You don't go pig hunting, bear hunting, whatever, but you love mule deer hunting. Okay? That's your thing. Well, just like you, who is this diehard mule deer hunter in Montana, there is a diehard mountain lion hunter in Colorado. Let's just say Colorado loses, the anti-hunters win and Colorado loses. Now, you've just taken the one thing away that small population, whatever size it is, of guys that only hunts mountain lions, you just took away that from them. So now you have effectively removed that portion of the hunters from the voice that we have as sportsmen. And let me explain that real quick. So the only reason why hunters and anglers even have a voice, or even have a say, I should say, in anything that involves hunting and fishing, is because of the money that we generate and because of what we do for conservation. Okay, the tool that we are. So typically, we're their largest stakeholder when it comes to, even though we only occupy 5% of the population, we're the largest stakeholder. So we have one of the biggest seats at the conservation table.
Right.
Okay. So the anti-hunters are constantly trying to minimize that voice so that we don't have so much sway. Okay. So let's go back to the example. You remove that population. Now you remove some hunters that are no longer hunting. Okay. And that reduces that voice a little bit.
Right.
Okay. You just effectively remove that population. Now, all those other people that buy lion tags in Colorado during the course of elk hunting and deer hunting and or sheep hunting and whatever, just to have a tag, now they're no longer buying tags. So now the funding goes down and again, shrinks your voice a little bit. Okay. And lions in every Western state actually are the biggest predator for deer and elk. Okay. So more lions means less deer means less tags means less money. Again, smaller voice.
Right.
And this is like a big tactic of the anti-hunting establishment because they know that we follow the science. So they put more apex predators on the landscape, less need for you to hunt. They're trying to remove you by proxy. Okay. So there's less opportunity, less need for hunters. So you're going to hunt less. Now there's less money coming in. Again, boom, hits you again. It's just like a double-edged sword. You're getting it from both ends. Lose money. Okay. If that's not compelling enough, if they lose mountain lion hunting in Colorado, now it sets precedence for them to come and take mountain lion hunting away in Montana. Now it's at your doorstep. Now it's a little bit more real. If that's not good enough, think about this. In the language, they're trying to define, in this particular bill, they're trying to define trophy hunting, their definition of trophy hunting.
Yep.
And that language basically says you cannot take pictures, you cannot take hides, antlers, hooves, teeth, claws, even though we know mountain lions don't have antlers,
Right.
Or hooves.
Well, it's just painting a broad stroke, right? And even though those animals might not have those specific parts, well, it says it in here.
Right.
So now we can apply it to this.
They're using that so that they could transpose that language onto stuff that you want to hunt.
Exactly.
That now they can come after the mule deer, that hunting that you love to do.
Right.
Okay. It goes even further than that. You think about it federally. That same group of guys, that girls, whatever, that same group of hunters that only hunted mountain lions. Now they don't need to buy guns and ammos and sporting equipment anymore because they no longer hunt, right? That was what they did. You took it away from them. So what do I need this for? What do I need to buy this for? Because I don't do this.
Right.
So now they're no longer contributing federally to Pittman-Robertson. And then those who don't know what Pittman-Robertson is, it's a big fund that gets divvied up. So if you think about it as a big pie, okay? So these are just arbitrary numbers. So let's say right now it's $1.5 billion. And because you lost that portion of lion hunters and they're not contributing, now it's $1.4 billion, okay? So now that pie just got smaller. So now when they go to divvy up that pie into little pieces to give it to all the different states, now Montana has a smaller piece.
Right.
Okay, so it affects you. And this is why it's important that a guy in Florida who gator hunts should give a shit about a guy in Washington who bear hunts. you know,
Yeah, absolutely.
because at some point, one, it's going to be at your door, but it's like death by a million cuts. You have all these little, you don't know you're bleeding out, but you have all these little cuts that they're taking it away from you bit by bit, and that is their goal.
Yeah, absolutely. So there were so many points there that I was just like, so let's go back a little bit. Cats are, like you said, the biggest taker of ungulates. Right. Well, not all ungulates, but deer, elk.
Mostly. And sheep.
Yeah. And so I read a study, just as a side note, not too long ago, that each cat on average takes around 42 deer per year.
Yep.
That is an astronomical amount. Like, if you really think about it.
Well, it's 7,000 times 42, whatever that is.
Yeah. 7,000 times 42. So, well, even if you went 7,000 times 40.
That's 294,000 hoofed animals.
Yeah. I mean, that's just crazy in itself, right? Yeah. And, not to mention the human-wildlife conflict portion of it. And I am not I'm not an anti-predator person.
Oh, I'm not either.
Like when they were talking about, whenever we get into the debate about wolves, they're cute, cuddly looking animals, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff, right? I am not anti-wolf.
Yeah.
I think they're beautiful.
Same.
Right?
They got their place.
The problem is, even if you go into a system like Colorado just did with their wolf initiative, it's I believe it was, when I read the language, 150 animals before they'll even take it into a state management position.
Well, right now there is no management program even proposed and set in place, because we were working on that to try to get that passed.
Well, so the language that I just read, though, like they were saying, I don't remember if it was.
So once they're out of the
endangered,
yes, yeah. They should be able to get moved over to, and not managed federally, but managed by the state. But even within that, there is no lethal method of take on these animals.
Right.
So there is no real control. You can't remove them. So,
and like I was saying, I'm not anti-wolf, but they're devastating. They're devastating killers. I mean, they got to eat.
Yeah.
But they're unlike cats. Well, I guess sort of like cats. They thrill kill.
Yep.
Right. I haven't heard a whole lot of situations where mountain lions are thrill killing, but I do know with mountain lions, they prefer fresh meat.
Yes.
So even if they don't eat the entire animal, they'll go out and get another one. Yep. Right. So there's that aspect behind it. Right. But, there's so much there that you had said, right? You were talking about no reason to go out and buy guns and ammo. Well, that's why hunting has nothing to do with the Second Amendment. Even though the Democrats and that side of the aisle, and I'm not Republican or Democrat. I just kind of, I vote for what I think is the best situation, right?
Right.
But that side of the aisle, what they'll say is, oh, well, you don't need this weapon to hunt.
Right.
Well, the problem is, you get rid of that, then it's a trickle down effect, right?
Sure.
And if you only have if you get rid of the hunting aspect, you get rid of the Second Amendment aspect. Yeah. So, well, I mean, we're as a 10,000 foot view. I mean, it affects just getting away with just these small wins on their side for getting away for small portions of hunting. That completely, in my opinion, plays to a larger picture of taking away your personal freedoms given to you by the Constitution.
Yeah. So I mean, the whole 2A argument thing. So historically, and I don't know what the numbers are exactly, but so I'm going to give you some roundabout numbers or arbitrary, really. You know, when the fight first started, let's say 75% of the gun owners were hunters. And over time that has shifted, and now it's about 25% of gun owners are hunters. So, and I tell people this all the time. I'm going to preface this. 100% of hunters are 2A guys. Not 100% of 2A guys are hunters. And, so that I think where this originated when like PR started 100 and whatever years ago, and we hung our hats, and I say we, I mean the hunting industry hung our hats on the fact that we needed these firearms to continue to hunt. So I think that's where a lot of the argument came, and I think that's why the anti-hunters kind of adopted that strategy to go after us. You don't need that to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I get why they're doing it, and I don't see that way. I mean, if you want to own a freaking AK, I mean, I don't think you should own a bazooka, but
Yeah.
because you enjoy to go shoot, an automatic weapon at the range, then hell, whatever floats your boat, man. I'm fine with that as long as you're not using it at Walmart.
Well, and that plays into the mentality, like you said, of hunters, where, hey, don't affect my lifestyle, whatever, So going back to the mountain lion side of things, so when I spoke to Mike,
Mm-hmm.
One of the big things that he was talking about was you guys were pushing for the mountain lion initiative.
Yep.
And from what I had understood was that they were starting out with trying to ban mountain lion hunting with dogs. Was that accurate?
And I'm not as close to the issue as Mike is, because Mike is actually on the team working for it. They've tried to come after mountain lion hunting 3 times now in Colorado. We've beat them at the commission level twice, and they also tried a legislative, and they were beat 4-1 on that. So now their only other option to try to get mountain lion off is to come at it through a ballot box. So that's why we're at where we're at. I don't know if in those previous, if it was about hound hunting specifically. I don't remember it being about hound hunting. Like the last one for sure. I know it wasn't just about hound hunting, but it might have been in the 2 before that. And unfortunately, I'm not the guy to answer that question for you, and I apologize.
No
But
problem.
all I know is that they're using this as a tool to not only come after mountain lion hunting, but they're coming after all hunting.
Yeah. And so even if let's just speculate here and say that we were trying to get rid of, or we're not, but governmentally we were trying to get rid of hound hunting, right? So the way our management plan works for cats is, as far as I know, in most states where you can hunt cats, is you have to take a male, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they are so hard to define whether it's male or female that the only way you could do it is up close by using hounds. And so if you take away that aspect, you might as well just get rid of mountain lion hunting at all, which is not something that I want to see happen anyway. But because first off, they're highly elusive animals.
Sure.
I know hunters who have never even seen a mountain lion. They've been out in the woods a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're highly elusive. They avoid people in most cases as much as they possibly can. And They leave very little trace. They're just really. There's no way to actually hunt them through a spot and stalk method effectively.
Right.
And so you need dogs in a lot of cases to even find a cat.
Right.
And much less get a shot at one and identify it.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely.
So that's where this initiative is so, or even the concept of a anti-dog hunting initiative is so dangerous. And like I said, that's just speculation, even if that was the case. So I think it's, what is it, like 10%? I think of lions are even taken, or tags. I think are even filled.
Dan had shared with me the statistics at one point, and I did not commit them to memory, but it was astounding how low the mountain lion take was from just your spot and stalk versus, it was like, and these are again arbitrary numbers, but to your point, like 300 lions, whatever, were taken with hounds, and like 10 were taken with spot and stalk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you had 300 lions that were taken, versus 7,000, that's, I mean,
I don't remember what the quota, but it's pretty low.
Yeah.
Like I could tell you what Arizona's is, because I know that I actually worked on that bill, so I know it. When they came after it for mountain lion hunting in Arizona, we have anywhere from 4,000 to 6,000 lions, and we have a quota of like 268. And every year we shoot about 240 something. We never actually even reached the quota.
Wow.
So
yeah. I mean, it's and they're using methods by saying stuff like mountain lion is inedible. It's the dogs hurt the cats, and all kinds of. I've never even seen it. I've done a bit of hound hunting just because I thought it was, well, first off, it's a heck of a workout.
Yeah.
Like, people do not realize how hard it is.
Oh yeah, chasing dogs and cats.
I mean, it's not like you got a recall button where you could say, "Hey, all right, leave that one alone. We're already 10 miles in.
Right.
You've got to go get your dogs."
Yep.
Even if, and that's the other thing too. Even if that's not a cat that you're willing to take,
right,
which happens a lot, you still have to get those dogs.
Yep.
So first off, it's an extremely good workout. But the other thing is, I've never seen the dogs actually hurt the cat in any way, or even bite the cat. I don't think I've even seen that. They tend to keep enough distance away from the cat where the cat's not going to smack them.
They don't want to get swiped. I've seen dogs get hurt, unfortunately, but it's definitely not a common practice. And when I say hurt, a little scratched up, not like maimed or anything like that. But they're going to spin whatever negativity they possibly can. This is what anti-hunters do.
Yeah.
Like,
mountain lion meat is not edible.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite meat.
Yeah. I've heard that from multitude of people. I've eaten it. I think the last one that I harvested was 2013. So I was not as well versed as I am now in game chefery. I think now I would probably make a very good meal out of it. And then, I did some barbecue stuff with it. It was good. It wasn't like, oh my God, good. But I've heard so many people tell me how awesome it is, and I've seen all these recipes now and all this other stuff. So I look forward actually to my next one because I want to be able to try to make some more extravagant meals out of it.
That was something that so I've got a wild game cooking show that I've been working on. It should come out this summer.
Oh, nice.
And so I had talked to Mike about that too, and he said, well, I want one of your first episodes to be mountain lion hunting if it's coming out this year, because or not mountain lion hunting, but
Mountain lion meals.
Meals,
Yeah.
right? So that's one of the things that I'm going to do. But so if I am, let's play devil's advocate for a second,
Okay.
right? As an anti,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm anti-hunting, not because I don't think that the animals should be killed. I understand that animals have to die so that we can eat.
Right.
Okay, I'm in that camp right now.
Okay.
Because I kind of,
there's a good statistic I'm going to give you real quick that goes hand in hand with what you're about to say.
okay,
So only 5% of the nation, they associate themselves. 4% associate themselves as being vegetarian, and 1% as vegan. Okay, so only 5% of people have a moral. I don't even know how I'm trying to put the words, but only 5% of people should be mad at you for killing something for meat,
right,
basically. But and the funny thing is, not vegans so much. Some vegans, yes, but not all vegans and all vegetarians are opposed to hunting. So now the study that just came out says that 25% of Americans are opposed to you going to hunt for meat. So where the hell does the other 20% come from? Really, more than 20%, because I just told you that not all vegetarians and not all vegans are against hunting for meat, or against meat.
So
period.
I've got a theory on that. I think you can attribute a lot of that to ignorance, and I don't mean that people are just stupid; they just don't know, right?
Naive.
Yeah, naive. There you go. That's probably a better word. So, I think a lot of it has to do with urbanization, and I've like shouted this from the rooftops in like several situations, right? But I think it has to do with urbanization, and because the population, obviously way back, we had to hunt or grow your own food or, raise cattle or whatever, right? So we were intimately connected with where our food came from. Now you've got these urban situations where you don't really have the amount of butchers like on the street corner that were doing that kind of stuff, or you don't have the people that are raising their own food inside those cities. So it's one of those out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah,
things.
we become increasingly disconnected with what we eat.
I get this all the time from people. There was a bodybuilder one time that said to me, why are you killing animals? You could just go to the grocery store and get whatever meat you need.
Yeah.
And I was like,
yeah.
So an animal has to die. And I kept it civil.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay.
It's tough to have that conversation.
Do you yeah, it is.
It's easy, but it's tough because you're dealing with somebody that's not thinking rationally.
You almost have to use the Socratic method where you just start asking questions. Okay, so do you eat meat? Yes, I eat meat. Okay, well, do you eat chicken wings? Do you eat pork? Do you eat beef? And he's like, well, all of those. I eat all of those. I'm like, okay, well, Super Bowl, you enjoy chicken wings, right? And he's like, yeah. And I said, well, how many wings does a chicken have?
Yep.
And he's like, 2. And I was like, okay, well, how many chickens do you think had to die just because you wanted chicken wings for the Super Bowl?
Yep.
And he was like, well, that's beside the point. And I was like, okay, let's go
what's
even further. You just said you eat beef. I'm sure you eat hamburgers. And he's like, yeah. Okay, well, how many, if you had to guess, how many cows do you think are in a single pound of processed ground beef? And he goes, 1 cow. And I was like, no. There are studies that have shown that there are over 20 different animals in 1 single pound of ground beef.
Wow. I didn't know that. That's awesome.
And he was like, I said, so effectively, I'm killing only a few animals a year to feed my entire family. You, just in a single pound of ground beef, are killing more animals than I am in an entire year.
Yeah.
And I said, that is just one aspect
right.
of why I hunt, right? The other thing is very healthy meat. I know where my food is coming from. I don't trust the government.
Right.
I don't trust the USDA and all that kind of stuff. So maybe that's my conspiratorial side.
Yep.
And there's so, plus raising my kids in that sort of lifestyle where you understand that life feeds on life.
Mm-hmm.
You treat life with much more reverence. It's not just going out, and I'm not just going out and killing 5 elk a year for the sake of killing 5 elk a year.
Right.
I don't think I've ever killed 5 elk in a year, but
I got your point.
So you learn very quickly what you actually need. And this also goes back to the grip and grin,
Mm-hmm.
The trophy hunting side of things and stuff like that. I think personally the grip and grin thing is a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes,
I
very.
get that people, maybe it's considered distasteful,
Mm-hmm.
right? But at the same time, people have to understand that we're not just happy for the fact that we got this animal.
Right.
There's all we worked our butts off for it. And if somebody does not believe that, come on an elk hunt with me.
Right.
We've worked our butts off for it. We've gone out, I don't know how many times. It's very rare that you're lucky enough to go out like one day and you get an animal.
Sure.
And there's that delayed gratification that you learn from it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a number of things that are just very healthy behind it, right? And so by having those tough guys, I think going back to the point, that 20%, I think much of that is ignorance, naivete, just
Mm-hmm.
out of sight, out of mind. They just don't know.
Right.
They don't know the process anymore because they grow up without even seeing the process. I was doing a podcast with Tom Opry
Mm-hmm.
of Shepherds of Wildlife, and he's got his hat in the ring for all kinds of things. But so I was on a podcast with him, and he had quoted a study that was done in, I want to say it was Chicago, that 25% of the students didn't even know where their hamburger came from.
Right.
And this was years ago.
Yeah.
So from generation to generation to generation, that's a problem. And through media and all that kind of stuff, it's not one of those things that's on the forefront of their mindset,
right?
To teach anymore. And unfortunately, I think that's where that 20% comes from. And I think if we can reach out to those 20%, and Meat Eater, no matter, sure, there's controversy in every organization, but Meat Eater has honestly done a good job.
Yeah, I think they're connecting the non-hunter with the hunting very well. Like, they're bridging the gap, and that, like, exactly, say what you, and I had my reservations too. I'm from Brooklyn. I'm just naturally skeptical of everyone. You're
from one of those areas that normally would not.
You're
have
guilty
any
until
idea.
proven innocent, in my opinion. Like, that's the way I operate. So, I had my skepticisms, or I might even still, who knows? But they have shown me nothing but good things. They articulate well. They talk about the positive things. They've put out things that are positive, and, like Joe Rogan, people talk shit about him. I'm like, dude, like, do you realize that he's got the biggest platform in the world, and he is talking in a positive manner about hunting? Who gives a shit if he freaking hunts on private land or not? Like, don't take this guy down.
That's another one of those huge arguments.
It's stupid. It's stupid shit. Like, you hear this all the time. Like, oh, Cam Hanes. I'm like, dude, people who talk like that, I don't know, because I don't want to put people down.
I think it's
I don't. I just think
thing.
It just goes against. It goes against what we're all trying to do. We're all trying to work to a certain. We all want to hunt, right? We all want to do what we do. Whether you're a bow hunter, whether you're a rifle hunter, or an elk hunter, or deer hunter, duck hunter, snipe hunter. I don't give a shit what you do. You use a fucking atlatl.
Yeah.
You know, we're all trying to do. We're all in the same boat. So stop shooting holes in the freaking bottom of the boat.
Right.
Start rowing in the right direction.
Yeah. If you have anything to say, speak directly to that person. If you're doing a private message, or, don't put it out in the comments where everybody can see.
Right.
Send a direct message and say, hey, look, man, I really don't think that this method of take is ethical. Can you explain it to me? Be open-minded, or, and I think, to your point, I think it's tribalism.
Yep.
First off, humans are tribalistic.
Sure.
And, we want to get in our group, right? But the thing is, very few of us, from what I see, are in the group of hunting as the primary concern. We're more in the group of bow hunting.
Yeah.
Muzzleloader, rifle.
We do it to ourselves. Actually, Dan was talking about this the other day on my podcast. When somebody comes and asks you, you immediately associate yourself. Oh, I'm a bow hunter, or I'm an elk hunter. You don't say I'm an outdoorsman or I'm a sportsman. Something that's all encompassing of what everybody does. You say what it is that you are, and just by doing that, I do it too. I didn't realize it till he pointed it out. You're by default. You're segregating yourself. You're putting yourself in this one little box, and when you put yourself in this little box, you're subject to that tribalism that you were talking about, because this box may not be exactly what this box is, and so this box doesn't like this box, and that and it's just not. It's not good for us.
No,
it's just
it's death by 1,000 cuts.
Yep.
What is it? Sun Tzu.
Yep.
Sun Tzu had said, you separate your enemy, and it's easier to take out little pieces.
Oh yeah.
Right. And that's 100% the tactic that's being
100%.
used.
100%. They know it.
And so the other side of that is, maybe some people are going to think I'm psychotic for this, maybe, but I believe
you're a psycho.
I believe that humans are nothing more than animals. Yes, we possess a higher intelligence than some of the animal species that we manage.
It's 100% right.
But
I don't think anybody would disagree with you on evolution. That's what we are.
But ultimately, when it comes down to it, when society breaks down, and I don't mean like in an overall aspect, right? But let's just see it on micro levels. When society breaks down, let's say there's a disaster in some sort of situation, humans revert to their animalistic instincts to survive, right? So in that aspect, you're going to do whatever it is that you're going to do to survive. So you're no more different than the wolf or the bear, the mountain lion, right? Mountain lions, or nobody looks at, one of those videos of wolves eating an elk or a bison or, whatever it is, and taking down those animals. And it's absolutely brutal. But nobody says, well, they should end this quicker.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't work that way. Yeah. Right? And ultimately, when it comes down to it, yes, we have ethics, but ethics are a man-made construct.
So what you were just saying, that example you were saying, I don't think people don't look at it and say they should end this quicker. I think nobody condemns the wolf or the lion for doing what it's doing. Because I would disagree. I think a lot of people don't want to see that, and they would hope that it would end quicker.
Well,
so
I not to.
That's why I just wanted to clarify, because
not to disagree though.
Yeah.
I've seen in several of those posts and stuff like that where the advocates and anti-wolf hunting people,
Mhm.
where they're like, "Oh, that's nature at its realest. It's so beautiful," all that kind of stuff. And then you get somebody gets on there and says, "Yes, but they are decimating, all these different things or whatever," and then it just turns into a fight.
Yeah,
right? Because I, as an elk hunter, want my elk so
Right.
that I can go and hunt. So going back to the devil's advocate thing, right? Why should I be concerned? Well, let's look at it this way. Why is hunting as a form of management so important?
Mhm.
Why can't we just throw in predators and let wildlife manage itself like happened thousands and thousands and thousands of years?
Okay, I'm going to put my wildlife manager cap on. First off, that idea that wildlife can self-regulate or self-manage, that might have been true 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, when there was 1 million people in the world. There's freaking 8 billion of us now. Okay. And you never have to step foot in the wild to affect what happens to wildlife. We consume everything. Your phones, your freaking wood, petroleum, all these different things we consume, and we're consuming at a rate now that we never did. I don't know how old you are, but
I'm 39.
Okay, so you're old enough to see this. When you were a kid, people bought a car and they kept that car for 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
Now somebody buys a car, and every 2 years they get rid of it. You used to buy a computer, you kept it forever. Now people buy computers every other year. Your cell phone, you buy the
Bose.
TVs. Your boat. Okay, perfect example. Okay, but like a TV, like, dude, I had my parents bought that TV. We had that TV for freaking ever. Like,
partly because you didn't want to move it because it was heavy as crap.
True. But but it was also expensive.
Yeah.
Like, now you could go buy a big screen TV for $900 and get this giant ass thing. Actually, that big TV right there, 70 something inches or 68 inches, that TV was under $400. So, but it's throwaway. That takes a bunch of freaking resources to build. I don't care if we're not talking about economics here. We're talking about resources. That takes a shit ton. And I'm just as at fault as I'm not stepping on a soapbox here. I'm not morally above anybody. I do the same shit. I got an iPhone 14. I didn't buy a 15, but like we do this stuff. So you can effectively, like, I don't want to use the word affect again, but I couldn't think of another word. Affect what happens out in the field, out in the wild, without ever leaving your freaking living room. So it's like the idea, if I put, predators who don't know that, hey, I got to stop over here to meet the carrying capacity. They don't know. They're just going to do what predators do. They're going to eat and eat and eat, and eventually there's not going to be stuff for them to eat, and they're going to cause us peaks and valleys, and it's not going to. It might level out in 100-something years, but what is that leveled out going to look like?
Right.
I'm not well versed enough on it, and I don't really want to give a biology lesson on a podcast, but look up predator pits. Valerius Geist. He's a
great example. Yeah.
Okay, look up predator pits and Valerius Geist if you want to kind of educate yourself on that. there's, that preservationist mindset is not good for wildlife. That hands off, let me just let them do what they do, because we can't just let them do what we do. We have roads everywhere. We do, like, literally our fingerprint is on everything. So we are the intellectual beings of this planet, right? We're not aliens. We did not come from the sky. We belong here. We're part of the system. But since we have the ability, and we are the biggest consumers, and we are the largest number of any single species other than bugs, obviously, and I guess maybe fish, but we can affect the most. We're the ones that create global warming. We're the ones that, do this and we do that. Like, it is our job to manage the wildlife. The word conservation is to conserve what it is that we're using. We know that if we take one deer, it's better for the whole herd rather than us taking, no deer, and now the whole herd is going to suffer because we didn't take that one deer.
Right.
And we don't always get it right. We're humans. We sometimes screw shit up.
Well,
but
and there's also, there's several aspects to that too, right? But you've got, if in a perfect world it was just the wildlife management aspect of it, purely based on the best science that we know,
right,
then it works perfect.
Sure.
It's when you get ballot initiatives or political bias or I hate to say it this way, but capitalistic interests
sure
into the mix.
Yeah, it's never just a science. There's social science that has to be incorporated into management decisions.
And emotion. Emotion is a huge...
Well, emotion is part of social science, unfortunately. Like what you do and what... as a game manager, for instance, like, I don't envy their position, because I know that you have to take into account all the stakeholders. Okay, yes, hunters occupy this, but we talked about this earlier. You occupy this portion of it, but there's ranchers, there's the person who lives in downtown, and there's the guy who owns the ranchette, and and so on and so forth. And yes, you got to take all these opinions, because your job is to try to do what's best for wildlife, but you're also trying to do it where you're keeping everybody happy. It's not an easy job to do, and
you're hated by somebody.
Yeah, and hunters need to realize, because this is part of the problem too, is we send a lot of hate. Oh, they're taking away, X amount of tags in this unit. Da, 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 da. They don't need to, because I went out there last week and there was 50 fucking elk, whatever. You got to support the science, and you got to support the decisions being made. Now, there's instances like right now, like in freaking Washington, they took away spring bear hunting. There's no scientific reason for them to do that.
Right.
That's your time to stand up and say something.
Exactly.
Okay, but when they're trying to save a population and they take away some of your ability to hunt, shut the
Well, and
you know what I'm saying?
That Washington situation was interesting too, because if I'm correct, I believe that one started with a dog initiative. Did it not?
No, they had some loophole where they didn't, and it was done on purpose. They didn't renew the spring season within the 5-year program that they have, the 5-year management plan that they have. So it was left out. And they're like, oh, it's not in there, so we're not going to have spring bear season. We'll have to re-vote it in. And then that gave them, the people that are on that commission,
well, I stand corrected.
ammunition.
So what, we're probably running long here, but
yep.
There's one of the biggest aspects that I see with uh, with let wildlife run itself, and kind of to go back to your point, our fingerprint is everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
We prioritize human life over animal life. So in a perfect world,
Mm-hmm.
if we said, okay, well, we are no longer going to care about human life, so you get smacked by a grizzly bear.
Yep.
Oh, well, it's a
Yep.
bear being a bear, you know, then, or, you know, Fluffy goes out and he gets attacked by coyotes or
Right.
whatever, you know, it is what it is. Unless we were completely willing to do that, and even still, that wouldn't change anything,
Right.
right? We'd still have to manage it in some way. There's no way to get around not managing these animals because they're based on urban sprawl.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, you've got that's a whole nother rabbit hole. But based on urban sprawl, based on human wildlife conflict, you've got the rancher conflict. You know, got to provide food.
Yep.
You've got all of these different attributes that affect the reasoning behind managing, like hands-on managing these animals.
Right.
And the best method that I know of is through hunting. Right? You can't just, oh, I'm going to release predators.
What?
And the other thing is too, what about the eastern side of the U.S. where there really aren't predators? You know, you've got coyotes.
Yep.
You know, but out, and there's the lions here and there.
Right.
You know, there's some bears in, you know, further east or whatever. But bears don't eat that many deer. You know, so
Depends where they're at.
Yeah.
Depends where they're at, and depends on the time of year. They are pretty harsh on fawns and stuff. But you know, the point is here, we're not trying to vilify. We're not trying to vilify any of the predators. We're not trying to, you know, predators are going to do what predators do. And again, it just goes back and circle it back to, we need to do what's best holistically for the system. Look, you know, you can't affect change here and expect to not have an outcome here. So you got to look at everything. Everything needs to be in balance. Everything needs to be thought of, checked up, and at the same time, you know, we're trying to manage the stakeholders and have this all-encompassing plan that's good for everybody overall.
So let's get into Howl real quick.
Okay.
Right. If somebody was to donate or say, hey, look, you know, I want to donate, I want to get behind this cause.
Sure.
In what ways can people get behind Howl to help affect change?
Well, right now, I mean, any donation helps. Becoming a member helps, because just running the website itself is a costly thing. So money definitely helps. But we want you to be active. We want you to hear your voice. We want you to be. It's not something we just want you to throw your money at and walk away. Like, I would, you know, again, I want people to donate with their wallets, I mean, or to help out with their wallets and help us out to keep doing what we're doing. But I also want you to be involved. Right now we're doing a hunt giveaway, which I think it's something everybody can kind of get excited about. It's a mule deer hunt in South Dakota. It's $100. You get your membership, and you get entered in a 1 in 500 chance to win this hunt.
Wow.
It's the best odds. It's the best odds in the building here, and I think it's better than any, you know, odds if you drawn a tag anywhere. So it's fully guided, meals, lodging, taxidermies included.
Wow.
And you get and the hunt will be filmed, so you'll get a copy of the hunt for, you know, to relive for the rest of your life, show your kids, whatever.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm trying to drive people right now, as far as, you know, donating money and getting involved stuff, because it's a good situation.
So, going to the why is it so important to donate, right? How much does one of these initiatives, let's say the cat hunting ban, right? How much does it actually take to affect change financially?
Mm-hmm.
to where at least you're a blip on the radar?
So
just so people have an idea of where their money's going.
The estimate was around $5 million.
Wow.
Just to put up a formidable defense. To give you insight, like, so one of the things we're trying to do is we're trying to not be playing defense all the time, because that's all we're ever doing is playing defense. We really want to get funding in place ahead of time, moving forward, to not have to play. So by the time the wolf thing in Colorado was on the ballot and they decided to start fundraising for it, they end up getting, I don't remember the numbers. I'm not good at memorizing those things because it's not important to me. It's just the concept thereof, which is important. They got like $1.2 million, which was not even close. But they were so late to the game to start fundraising for it. By the time people were actually starting to talk about it, it was already like, we had 4 months, whatever. So now on this ballot initiative, that's why we started trying to get funding in place beforehand. And let's say for some reason it doesn't make it to the ballot and we've been able to squash it because money's being spent already. Like, we already did the title board stuff. We already, I say I didn't do it. Dan Gates and CRWM did it. We're part of it. We're part of promoting it. We're part of, uplifting the community and driving people towards this for sure. But I say the hunting community, we've been able to do that. Let's say it doesn't make it to the ballot. That money, Dan has already said he's going to use that money either in cash for the next thing that comes up in Colorado, or possibly if they go to another state, a neighboring state, already have, okay, here you go. I'm going to donate, $1 million to already starting.
Yeah.
So, and that's the end goal is, and I'm not talking about it too much, and we're not kind of shouting it from the rooftops, but we Howl specifically, are trying to come up with a way to have a war chest, so to speak, so that when things pop up in states, we're already kind of halfway there.
Yeah, absolutely. So where can people go to donate, or at very least look at what you guys have to offer?
Go to howlforwildlife.org.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
follow Howl on Instagram, Howl_org. That helps.
Perfect. All right. Sounds good, man. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me on.
Appreciate it.